there is something that I would mention that was quite interesting that happened. One other thing. So obviously, we're all familiar with the late great Amy Winehouse, who tragically passed away when she was just 27. So we worked with her quite a lot on Jules's TV show. The first time was when she first appeared before she did the big beehive hairstyle. She was just had her long hair, and she came on Jules's Hootenanny show, and literally she was very new. She'd only just sort of appeared on the scene, and we did a jazz standard with her. And I think it was Teach Me Tonight. I think it was. That was the first time we played with her on the Hootenanny, and it's out there on YouTube. Jules Holland, Amy Winehouse, Teach Me Tonight. You see that. And she was very fresh faced and full of life, enthusiastic. She was fantastic. And then later on, when she changed her image and she had the big beehive haircut, she did Jules's radio show as well. We played with her. We didn't know what track she was going to do, so she came to the studio, and the rhythm section we had to learn the track in front of her because no one had told us what she was going to do. So someone had to play the CD in the control room, and the rhythm section we had to sit there and learn it by ear while she's sitting there watching us. I mean, talk about pressure.
Well, this is a nice rounding up story because we were starting with, ear training and
Yeah,
music and stuff. And in
absolutely.
this situation, you have to take everything to its limit, right?
Yes. Yeah. This couldn't have been further from how I started off with everything meticulously written out. This is now we have got to learn something by ear. There's no time to write anything down. We just had to listen to the track inside the control room. And she's literally sitting there like probably filing her nails or polishing her nails or but literally she is waiting for us to learn this song
Yeah.
in front of her. And of course, you can't just keep listening to it 4 or 5 times because that's very time consuming. So I think we literally got to listen to the whole track twice. I think 2 run-throughs, and then we had to record it live with her on this radio show. So in other words, if after 2 listens through of it, if you didn't know what was there, you're going to make a mistake or you're going to play the wrong whatever. It's going to be. So luckily, we all did it. But I guess because we used to, that happened a few times to us with Jules. We knew who the guest was going to be, but we didn't know what the guest was going to play until they turned up. So we had to, our ears had to acclimatize to this very quick process. We had to, as the saying goes, we had to be able to listen around corners. You had to almost anticipate what was coming next. So it was great training, but it
Yeah.
was completely the opposite to how I started out. But this for me was, I realized that this is what you have to do. You have to be a successful musician, a really, really successful musician, and to be an in-demand one. You've got to be able to do so many different things, whether it's sight read, read chords, improvise, have great ears. There's a lot going on there. And the Jules gig was particularly good training for that.
Yeah.
You know.
Finding your spot. I think you have like one of your of many qualities. You have a perfect relation to finding your spot in
Sure,
an
sure.
ensemble. Like,
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, and that just comes from experience and time and playing in so many different musical settings. And like I said, when I was a brass player, I played in as many musical settings and bands than I've probably played as a bass player. I covered so many genres already, and then from singing in the church choir, singing all of that, all of those hymns, whatever, and from doing the work with Jules, because it's not just Jules's own music, things that he likes. It's the artists that we have to play with. You have to play with people that you could never imagine playing with any of the time. But you've got to make it work. You have to You have to find a way to fit in. Now, interestingly, just going back to Amy briefly, when we did the last time we worked with her was on the TV show, and she did some duets with Paul Weller. We did Don't Go to Strangers, and we did Heard It Through the Grapevine, and they're great. They're all on YouTube. Now, on the Grapevine, I played bass guitar, but on oh yeah, I played a fretted bass, but on Don't Go to Strangers, I didn't have my upright with me at the time. So I played it on my fretless Rob Allen bass. I played it on a fretless bass guitar. Now, when we did that show, years later, after she passed away, the year after she passed away, Jules's record company wanted to put that track with her and Paul Weller, Don't Go to Strangers, on one of Jules's albums. I think it's on the album Golden Age of Song. I think it is. Now, what happened is they listened to the track, and there was lots of things that we didn't like about it. There was some things that had gone wrong on the TV show. I think the string section were a little pitchy. The intonation wasn't quite right. There was some electrical troubles. Paul Weller wasn't happy with his vocal performance because he starts the song. He wasn't happy. I wasn't happy because I hadn't got my upright bass. So here's what was decided. We were going to isolate Amy's voice, and only Amy's voice, from that TV show. We were going to take that and put that on a track, and then we were going to record everything else, re-record everything else, and put it to her, because her vocal was the key thing. That's what it was all about. Okay. Now, we all love this because it was an opportunity for us to record a better version. But of course, we had to use that recording because she had passed away at this point. So, anyways, we redid everything. And the interesting thing with the song is, if you watch it on YouTube, Paul Weller starts the song. This is Don't Go to Strangers. He begins the song. But when we put it on this album, Jules's album, The Golden Age of Song, it was decided that they thought, because as a homage to Amy, they felt the first voice you should hear on that track was hers, not Paul's.
Yeah.
So what we did is we snipped the first section of the song. So the first voice you hear is Amy's and not Paul's. But what that does is it changes the length of the song. So instead of like A or whatever it was, it's ABA or something like you miss a first A section. But honestly, you can't tell. It doesn't really make a difference. But the thing is, I was called to go and do my parts on double bass. And I was so thrilled because I loved Amy. She was one of my favorite artists. And I just thought I wanted to do the track justice, which I couldn't do on the TV because my upright wasn't available. So now I'm going to get to play it with her on the track. And I went into Jules' studio and they played the track. And I think all we had was Amy's voice and maybe the drum part, nothing else. So I had to stand there in the studio on my own with my double bass, playing to Amy Winehouse's beautiful, haunting voice.
Ooh.
A year after we lost her, and I'm standing there, and even now I can, I do get emotional about it because it was, she was just such an incredible talent. She was so amazing. And I think it certainly made what I played on double bass, it made it more poignant and more emotional, and I'm not doing anything flamboyant because that's not what the song, it's a ballad almost. But I was just glad I got to re-record it on the instrument that I should have played to begin with. And I think I was able to put some more emotion into it on that later recording. So it's a better recording of that song. But obviously on the YouTube channel, you actually sort of see her, and it's the full version of it. But what you hear on Jules's album is her vocal. It's the same vocal. It's just that it was the rest of us. We got to re-record. So that was one of the more unusual things I've had to do, was to play with an artist who was no longer with us, So that was quite an emotional, profound thing. But again, it's just one of those things in this industry. I would say you have to be prepared for anything and everything. You just never know what you're going to be called to do, and as you just have to try and be as prepared as you can be, and that's the reason why. Like I'm going to be doing Jules's TV show next week. I'm playing with this British artist called Gabrielle, and we've played with her before, but she's got a new album out, and she's going to be on Jules's show, and I've been called in to play double bass with her. And I only got the call yesterday, and the show is being recorded on Tuesday. But straight away, the first thing I did was I listened to the track loads and loads. I transcribed the bass line. I wrote it all out, because I always want to be ahead of the game.
Yeah.
To me, it's to be successful, and the reason I think why I have been reasonably successful in this industry is I've always been very conscientious about preparation. Whether
Yeah,
it's
with Mr. Ron Carter as well. I mean, he is known for
yeah,
that, and many others, of course. I think if you should stay on the playlist, you have to be well prepared and be
yeah,
in that situation.
yeah. It's all about doing. Ironically, I was terrible at doing homework when I was at school, and I did whenever if I did it at all, it was very I did it badly. But now as an adult, that's the reason why I'm even more conscientious, because I realize the importance of this now. You have to do the work. You have to be prepared. You don't want to be caught out. You don't want to be the guy that's late for a session or for a gig. Uh, all of those things. And bearing in mind that I have made mistakes in the past. I have missed gigs and I have been late and I bought the wrong instrument. And you know, I hasten to add that this was all in the distant past. But the point I'm trying to make is some of the best lessons that I have learned about the music industry and about life really have come through just making lots of mistakes, really getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Under the most really awkward and painful, well, not painful, but uncomfortable circumstances. And some of these things are how you learn the best lessons in life, really. So yeah, it's hopefully I've learned a few things in my 60 years on the planet. So
I would like to hear you telling me a little bit about that Smokey Robinson
oh yeah.
occasion, which is also similar to being on your toes and not really have the possibility to be prepared.
Sure,
But
sure. Yeah, the Smokey Robinson story, that's a really interesting one. Again, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter how much preparation that you do, and I'm all for preparation. That's really important for me. But you can do all of that, and you can still have a curveball thrown at you at the last minute. So here's what happened. I was playing on Jules's regular TV show later, one of the weeks. And at the end of it, he made an announcement, and he said, "Oh, and next week on the show we have Smokey Robinson." And I remember thinking, "Wow, that sounds great." I didn't know at that point anything other than he was going to be a guest on it. And obviously, I love his stuff. I'm a big Motown fan, all of that. And then the following day, Jules called me up and he said, "So I'm going to need you to come and play bass, as well as our regular drummer and our guitarist. We needed a rhythm section." Smokey was coming to do the show the following week, and he was going to bring his MD, who was going to play some keyboards, but Jules would play piano as well. And then what happened is our regular guitarist wasn't available for that date. So Jules said, "Oh, listen, we've got to find a guitar player to come and play with us, with Smokey Robinson." And he said, "Do you know anyone? Can you recommend him?" And I thought to myself, well, I do know guitar players, okay, and I know some good players, but I'm thinking if it's down to me to make the choice, and I pick someone, and if there's anything that's not quite right, uh, and it could be a number of things, then I'm going to get the blame for perhaps not picking the perfect guitar player. Um, and I know what's going to happen. All of my guitar playing friends are going to see this and they're going to be really angry at me that I didn't call them. I'll apologize in advance, but I just kind of thought it's Jules's show. It's his responsibility. He should be looking for someone. So anyway, the following day he calls me up and he sounded really distressed. He's kind of going, oh. He said, and I said, what's wrong? He said, oh, I've been trying to call guitarists from everywhere. And he said, I've been really struggling. I've been really struggling. And I said, oh my goodness. I said, I thought you would know all the best players that are out there, you know. And he said, well, I said, well, have you got anybody? And he said, yeah. He said, I've got someone. He said, but I don't know if he'll be okay for the job. And I'm kind of going, oh God, who's this? And I said, well, who have you got? And he went, Eric Clapton. And of course, the whole thing was a wind up. He was completely winding me up the whole time because I'm kind of panicking, thinking, what's gone wrong here, you know? So he, you know, we had a belly laugh over that. So yeah, he got Eric Clapton to replace our guitarist. So anyway, the song that we were doing was it was the one that was made famous by Norah Jones, and the song is called "Don't Know Why." Now she didn't write it. I think it was a guy called Jesse Harris that originally wrote the song, but Norah Jones had a big hit with it. So I was sent a copy of the music, emailed, because in the early days with the Jules gig, it started off we would send cassette tapes, then we used to get sent CDs, and then as technology moved forward, we would get MP3s or whatever. So anyway, the bass part wasn't really that complicated. It was a very pleasant but pedestrian bass part. There was nothing complicated about it. But I thought to myself, what would be more important would be just doing a chord chart. That would be easier, and then I can just play around those chords. But also, I thought, well, because there's quite a few chords in it, it's quite a bit going on there. And I thought that Eric Clapton might appreciate me bringing a chord chart just in case he's not had a lot of time to look at this. So we get to the BBC, and Eric's the first person that I meet. Now we've worked with him a lot before, so we know each other, and we said hi, how you doing, just casual chit chat. And then he said to me, do you normally stand up and play on the TV show? And I said, I do. I said, but I don't mind. I'm open to suggestion. He said, I'd prefer to sit down and play for Smokey Robinson. And I think what it was is because he didn't want to draw attention to himself on the TV broadcast. He wanted Smokey to be the star, and he just wanted to sort of disappear in the background. So he sort of said, would you mind sitting next to each other as opposed to standing? Could we both sit down? And I said, yeah, sure. And I said, I'm really comfortable playing sitting down. I said, that's absolutely fine. And he's got a few guitars behind him, and morale is good, morale is high. And then I bring out this chord chart that I've written out myself. And I said to him, I said, I hope you don't mind. I said, but I thought this might be of some use to you. This is the chords of the song that we're playing. And he looked at this chord chart, and he said to me, he said, Dave, this might as well be Egyptian hieroglyphics. He said, it's of no use to me whatsoever.
Okay.
And it really, and I remember kind of thinking, oh wow, so I folded the chord chart and put it on the floor. And the one thing that amazed me was the fact that Eric, he doesn't do chord charts. So in other words, everything that he plays is all by ears. He wasn't into like, looking at the chords. That's not what he does. That's not how he plays. Everything he plays is purely by ear. So that was a big lesson for me. I didn't know that. That was quite interesting. So that was the first thing. And then we start to run through the song, and we're just having a blast. So this is just the band, like Jules on piano, drums, me, Eric, and I don't know, maybe Smokey's MD wasn't there. Maybe he was. I can't remember, but Smokey wasn't there. So we're running through the song, and we always do this on a TV show. We do it so the cameraman can get their angles, the lighting guys, the sound guys are doing a sound check, and we are getting to run the song to familiarize ourselves with it. So we do it a few times, and then we're all waiting for Smokey. Where let's rehearse with him. And then the producer came over and said, he's not here, and he's not going to be here for another couple of hours. His flight from America got in late, and he just wants to have a rest at his hotel. So he's not going to rehearse with you guys. You are not going to see him until you play it with him on live TV. and like, and and like Eric's looking at me, and I'm looking at Jules, and Jules is looking at the MD, and the drummer's looking at Eric, and none of us could believe this is happening because it's never happened before. We've always rehearsed with the artist before we play with them on the TV show.
Live on BBC.
Live on BBC, yeah. So, and Eric is kind of beside himself. He's saying to me, he said, "This can't be happening." He said, "Is this real? Does this happen all the time?" I said, "To be honest, I don't think it's ever happened before." I said, I think this is the first time this has occurred. And I think from Eric's point of view that when he does gigs and tours, that he rehearses not for just for hours, but for days and weeks and months. And here we are. We've got to play this song with this icon, this musical icon, with no rehearsal at all. So, but I just thought to myself, do you know what? It's just the way it is. What can you do? What can you do? It's just we've just got to go along with it and say. But Eric, I remember, was kind of quite freaked out about it. But anyways. So we had we'd run through it a couple of times, and so that was it. We had a break. We all got some food, and then we came back into the TV studio. And by this stage, the audience were in, and all the other bands were there. And we're sitting there just thinking, has Smokey arrived yet? Is he here? Still no sign of him. No sign. So the show starts, the cameras are rolling, and Jules is introducing everyone. And all of a sudden, it's our turn. And we're all sitting there, and still no sign of him at all. And then Jules comes over to our corner, and then he just says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we've got this fantastic icon of Motown here, the legendary Mr. Smokey Robinson." And I look around at this, and the curtain opens, and Smokey walks out, and he walks past us, and he goes to the microphone and starts singing "Don't Know Why." And we start playing, and that was it. So we do the song, and it was beautiful. It was really exquisite. And Eric does a solo in the middle of it. And I'm still, and if you look at the video, I've got a big grin on my face. Normally, when I'm playing, I'm not an overly demonstrative or emotional person. It's all internal. But I was sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm playing with Smokey Robinson. He's singing out front, and I'm sitting next to this legendary giant of the guitar world. And I'm thinking, life does not get any better than this.
No.
This is the best thing ever. And you can see the video, and I've got this big grin on my face. And at the end of it, Smokey finished, and he walked back towards us, and he came over to me and Eric, and he gave us both a hug, and he said something like, "Oh, that was really beautiful, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for playing with me." And then he walked off, and that was it. That was the end of that. Never saw him again. Never saw him again. So, yeah, that was one of the more slightly strange adventures, but just one of the best. It was one of the best things ever. And luckily, it all came together, even though we'd not done a single note of rehearsal with Smokey, it all came together.
Well, Dave, it has been such a great pleasure, such a great pleasure for me and for Chain of Sounds to
Thank
speak with you about bass and life, which is the two ingredients that we always return to. It seems at least. So I hope to meet you live
you.
in the near
Yeah,
future. Hopefully,
I
who
hope
knows?
so too. Yeah.
Uh, Thanks a million for letting me have this conversation with you.
Oh,
It
it's
has
my
been
pleasure.
a great pleasure, and
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I enjoyed it.
yeah, we could speak about more about basses and instruments and stuff, but we might we might do a part two. Who knows? Who knows?
I'll try and
So,
think of some more stories, but yeah, I'd be happy to. But no, thank you for inviting me. I've thoroughly enjoyed it too.
good luck in the future, and good luck on the tour that you're going to.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're going to be yeah. Once those European dates are over, we're on tour in the UK, and we've got Imelda May with us, who's a very famous Irish singer. She's a good friend of she's a good friend of the band. So Imelda will be our special guest on our summer tour.
Yeah, and I just came to think about one more thing. Behind your left shoulder, there
Mhm.
is a green bluish instrument standing. What is that, Dave?
Okay. Do you know what this is? This is probably one of the rarest things, one of the rarest instruments that I have. It's super, super rare. So what it is, it's a it's an Ampeg baby bass. So the famous these are like made in the 60s. So
Yeah.
so the outer shell is some kind of plastic fiberglass type thing. Yeah, and they filled it full of high density foam. You can see they've got like there's a line down it, so they would always come in two halves,
See.
and they would fill it full of this high density foam, and the idea was that it was like an early electric upright bass, I guess,
Ah,
and it's got its own particular pickup. So you can see the Ampeg end pin there, but
yeah.
it's and the bridge is metal as well. It's like a aluminium. I don't know if you can just see it there. It's a very unique aluminium bridge, but it's got the pickup is a diaphragm pickup. Now, I'm not overly, so in other words, it's not magnetic and it's not like a piezo. It's something in between that. I've never fully understood how it works, but a lot of um, a lot of salsa players play them.
Yeah.
And I've actually got. I love the fact it's got the original sticker. What does it say? Insert key provided here and turn to raise or lower the action. So this is the cool thing, because because the bridge, uh, you can't change the height of it because it's metal. You can't do anything with it. So if the action isn't right, I don't know if you can see this pin here. So the neck pivots. So if you remove this cap, you can put an Allen key in there, and you can change the angle of the neck.
Instead of changing the bridge,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, exactly that. But here's the thing: I've actually got two. I've got two of these Ampeg baby basses, and they're both in the 60s. And the other one is the more traditional brown one. They did a black one, they did a white one, but apparently this one, which I guess is kind of aquamarine, I think might be the official color. This is, I think, the rarest one of them all, because this was less of a commercial available one. This was more like a display model. They did it in this color just to catch people's eyes at trade shows. So this color is very rare. There's only a few of these in existence, because it wasn't like the ones you mostly see are the wood effect ones. And of course, the color is painted on the inside of this plastic. This plastic shell would have been transparent. So this color and all the colors of the others even the one that's got a wood effect, is painted from the inside. No, do you know what? This both of them came from like they both came from the States, so it took quite a lot of work to get them shipped over. But there's one unfortunate thing about these instruments. There's only one, and they sound great. They really do sound great. The only thing is the smell. They,
Yeah.
oh my days, they give off a very not very pleasant smell.
Old fiberglass construction smell, kind of, right?
It's well, it's worse than that. They smell like a sweaty old socks or sweaty old cheese.
We don't need more of that, right?
And honestly, it's I have to keep them in a completely different room because I can't have them out in the room because my wife goes crazy. You know, it's like the smelliest pair of socks or the smelliest camembert you've ever seen. It's really weird, but they all smell like it. And apparently, the other thing is, apart from the smell, is what used to happen to these instruments in because obviously they were made in California at the Ampeg factory. If the temperature changes, you can hear the foam making like a crackling noise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and what would happen is that when these were first made, because the whole point of them was to have a more portable double bass, like the whole point of an EUB.
Yeah.
So, and something that doesn't feed back as well. They don't feed back. But here's the thing: when a lot of guys bought these at first in California, and they'd leave them in their cars because of the heat, they would come back, and these things exploded. They would explode because the foam inside of them would expand
Yeah.
and it would break open the seals at the side.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, and when I first got these from America, and I put them in the front room, and one winter I put the central heating on, and I'm sitting there thinking, and I can hear this like these little, and I'm thinking, have we got mice or something in here, you know? And it was the change of the heat was expanding the foam, and I'm thinking, ah.
The phone was reacting to
Yeah.
temperature changes.
Even though the foam inside these things is from the mid '60s or early '60s, but it wasn't hot enough to do what it would do if you left it in a car on Sunset Boulevard. They're very cool, very collectible, very rare.
Yeah.
So something for my son Oscar to put on eBay when I've gone and when he's older. The funny thing is that me and my wife are right-handed. Everyone in our family, everyone's right-handed, apart from Oscar, our son. He's very left-handed, and he's very even when he kicks a football, he kicks with his left foot. I
Okay.
don't know what the reason for that is, but he's the only person I've ever known in my family to be left-handed. Um, and obviously, all my instruments are right-handed, so I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know if he would sort of play.
Well, I've had left-handed students, and well, it's a question of training. I think you will have a monster left hand. You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But you know what? In all honesty, even though the house is full of bass guitars, double basses, EUBs, guitars, he's not really that interested in bass. His skill is in the piano. That's where his aptitude is on the piano, and I think it's great because he's already at 7. He's already learning chords. He can read music. He can read the two clefs. He's understanding harmony. So
Yeah.
he's playing the best instrument. I wish I had done that when I was his age. I wish my parents had said,
Great
play.
foundation. It's a great
Yeah.
foundation.
It's just a great way to learn all the other aspects of it. And so the thing is, we're happy that he's doing that. And who knows, maybe a bit later on he will gravitate. He might say, "Oh, I'd like to try the bass of the guitar." But we're in no rush, and especially with the left-handed thing, we don't want to complicate uh, anything. So we're just letting him enjoy the piano, and we'll see what happens. But and that'll be useful though, because me and my wife Lucy, when we do gigs, because she plays, she's a singer, but she plays banjo as well. She really loves the banjo.
Yeah.
As you know, I love playing the tuba. So we're kind of thinking maybe we could do a family trio thing: tuba, banjo, voice, piano.
It's beautiful,
It,
wonderful,
it, it could it could go viral. Who knows?
wonderful, absolutely. And Oscar is so small, he can fit in the tuba, right?
He did actually climb into my tuba case the other day, and he was able to close the lid. I mean, luckily it didn't get stuck, but the tuba case is that big. So
This is a beautiful ending picture with you holding one of your beloved basses. And once again, it's been a great pleasure for me and for Chain of Sounds to have you on this.
well, same here. The pleasure's been mine too. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. So thank you for having me.
So we'll keep in contact, and best of luck, and thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.